right, Spuds, we have our 9-12 principal, Josh Hagg. He is here to introduce himself, and I'm going to ask him a series of questions, but we'll start off by Mr. Hagg introducing himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Josh Hagg. I am the principal for 9 through 12. I've been in Moorhead the last 10 years. First 7 I was an assistant principal here. Last 2 I was over at the Vista Center. And then now I've moved back over to the high school and I'm overseeing both the high school and the career academy.
Awesome. Okay, Mr. Hagg, what do you do during the summer? How do you spend your summer breaks?
Spend a lot of my time chasing after activities. I've got 3 kids that are busy, so I coach baseball. I still play baseball. And then go to my children's athletics as well. They're in softball, soccer, baseball. It's a busy summer chasing activities. And then I try and get into the fishing boat as much as I can.
So, well, I'm not sure if you're a Harry Potter fan or if you've read the books, but if you are, in which Hogwarts house would you be sorted?
I did read the books years ago, and I forget which house was which. I'm gonna guess maybe Gryffindor, but I really, to be honest, have no idea.
Awesome. We can let the class decide which house you'd be sorted in. That'd be fun. All right. What type or genre of music do you like?
Hard rock or classic rock are my 2 go-tos. That's generally what I'm looking for.
Perfect. Perfect. If you can grow up in any decade, which one would it be and why?
Probably the one I did, the 80s. I think the 80s were the best, although the 50s would have been a close second, I think.
Okay. Any reason why in particular?
I just think the 80s had probably some of the best music and some of the best movies. I still watch those and still get a kick out of those. So I think they had some of the best entertainment value. In the 50s, that was kind of the beginning of rock and roll. So that would have been a good decade too.
All right. What are your must-have smartphone apps?
Oh boy, must-have smartphone apps. Well, Maps is probably a big one. I use that one a lot. To be honest, I don't use my cell phone a whole lot, but it's mainly if it's Maps or I suppose any type of, whether it's text or whatever, some kind of communication app, whether it's Sports Engine or Huddle or something like that, I use those quite often.
Awesome. Okay. Now, how long would you survive a zombie apocalypse and why?
I think I'd make it out okay in something like that. At least I hope so. I am an outdoorsman. I hunt, I fish, and I think I could figure out how to survive if I had to be out and about and you know, was in something like that. So
awesome. Yeah. What kind of driver were you when you first got your license, and what did you drive?
Probably an average driver. I don't think I've never had much trouble with that. I started driving when I was pretty young because I lived in a smaller community with farming. So we started driving. I think I started when I was 12, but obviously licensed when I was 16. First vehicle was actually a 1983 Chevrolet S10 little pickup that had about 250,000 miles on it. So
perfect. Okay. Do you have a favorite sports team, or is there something interesting about you that you want to share, or both?
Probably in terms of sports teams, I guess anything Minnesota. I generally try and get behind anybody that's Minnesota. So.
Okay, awesome. And do you have a quote or a saying that you live by that you could share?
I don't know if I have an exact quote, but I would say just treat people well. I think if we treat people well and treat people the way we want to be treated, I think we'll be in good shape.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Hagg, thank you again, our principal here for 912. Hopefully the students gained a little bit more insight on an awesome principal we have here on campus. Thank you very much.
All right, Spuds. I'm here with Mr. Stowers, assistant principal. I'm going to give him a moment to introduce himself, and I'm going to ask him a series of questions.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Mr. Canyu is behind the video, by the way. Yes, I am Mr. Stowers. A lot of you know me as Coach Stowers because I was a PE teacher and also a coach on our campus here prior to being an assistant principal. Very excited for this opportunity. You can all call me Mr. Stowers. If you still call me Coach Stowers, I will still respond.
Great, thank you. So tell me, Mr. Stowers, how do you spend your summer break?
Well, in the past, I've spent a lot of my summer break coaching and helping student athletes develop in speed and strength. This last summer, most of my summer was tied up with my new role as an assistant principal. Outside of work, I love going to the lake with my family. I do have 2 young kids. And I enjoy fishing and golfing, really anything that involves being outside, because the winters here are pretty brutal. So I try to be outside as much as I can.
Thank you. Well, kind of a fun question here. If you lived in Harry Potter's world, which Hogwarts house would you be sorted into?
All right. Well, I don't know a ton about Harry Potter, and I couldn't tell you the houses, but I would want to be in the house of the best. I think it's Quidditch is the game. I think that's what it's called.
Yes.
But whichever house performs the best at that game, I would want to be in that house. And I think it's Harry Potter, because the movie is named after Harry Potter, so I'm assuming that he's going to win. So I would want to be in his house. Whichever house that is in, with the best Quidditch team is what I would want to be.
Okay. What type or genre of music do you like to listen to?
Well, I don't. Let's see. I would say right now it would be country, but I do listen to all types: rap, hip hop, rock, kind of some older punk music, I guess, if that's what you call it, like in the '90s type punk rock music. I grew up in the '90s, so. But my favorite concert I've ever been to is Garth Brooks, so it's kind of the top of my list right now would be country. I grew up listening to Garth Brooks and George Strait and Alan Jackson and Brooks and Dunn. Not that all of you know those bands or musicians, but yeah, country music, but a variety of different genres.
If you could grow up in any decade, which one would it be and why?
Well, I grew up in the 90s, and some of that was the early 2000s as well. I was in high school in the early 2000s. I would say the 90s. I'm going to stick with the 90s. I've experienced the kind of early 2000s and now all the way through 2021. There was enough technology in the 90s to have fun. I mean, we had the Sega Genesis, we had the Super Nintendo, and then the PlayStation 1 was kind of coming out, and like Madden 97 was awesome. So I know there's probably better games now and all that stuff, but let's be honest. A lot of you guys are going back to like Super Nintendo because I think you can download those on your system. But so the 90s, the smartphone wasn't available then. We still had cell phones, I think. I didn't have a cell phone. And you would have to, like, you didn't text message, but you'd write a note to someone and give them the note, and they'd write the note back. So it was kind of like text messaging. So that was pretty fun. It's a little bit, I don't know. It wasn't always on your phone, but so I would say the 90s. Music was great, although some may disagree. But that was like, I mean, Dr. Dre was just coming like into existence then, I think. Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop Dogg. Like, yeah, a lot of good music then. All right, so I will just say the 90s is where it's at. All right.
All right. You brought up your smartphone, and that's a great segue to my next question. What would you list as your must-have smartphone app?
Well, the must-have app would be Netflix. I'll throw that one out. There's a lot of different shows that I like and movies. Although I would just say like video streaming apps then, because I do watch some shows like on HBO or, what else, like Prime Video and stuff. So I would say video streaming apps. It's very convenient on the phone, especially since I don't have a ton of time to watch it. I can just, as I'm going to bed, maybe watch a show or so. So I would say that. I like the convenience of communication. So like Gmail and text messaging and some of the other social media platforms to connect with family and friends.
Okay. Here's a fun one. How long would you survive a zombie apocalypse and why?
Oh, geez. Well, I would say that those who survive a zombie apocalypse are prepared. I'm not very prepared for a zombie apocalypse right now, I'll just be honest. So, with that being said, I would like to think I would last a long time, and I certainly would try. But my survival instincts and ability to survive, like out in the wilderness, if you will, I I think I would last a pretty long time. Although I have a family to take care of too, so my survival would depend on theirs. So, yeah, not that prepared, but I'm sure I will be able to last a lot longer than all of you.
All right. Next question. When you first got your license, what kind of driver were you, and what kind of car did you drive?
Well, if you go by, I've never been in a fender bender or an accident, so I would say I'm a safe driver, although there's probably some luck with that. I always wear my seatbelt. It's number one, wear your seatbelt. I don't text and drive. Well, I wasn't. You didn't even have that option to text and drive when I was starting out driving. But I get to answer the question. To start off, I was a safe driver. I started off in a '77 Chevy, 3 on a tree. So you would shift from the top, not from the floor. And it did have 4-wheel drive. You'd have to get out of the vehicle or out of the truck and turn the hubcaps to lock in the 4-wheel drive. It was an awesome truck, single bed, short back. Yeah, so that's what I learned to drive on. Like I said, I think I'm a safe driver.
All right. Do you have a favorite sports team, or is there something interesting about you that you want to share?
I grew up in Arizona, so born and raised in Arizona, so I am an Arizona Cardinals and a Phoenix Suns fan. The Cardinals have been up and down, although they have the greatest football player of all time, Larry Fitzgerald, who was originally a Minnesota guy. So the Cardinals, but recently the Phoenix Suns, the '90s Suns was awesome with Charles Barkley and Dan Marley and Danny Ainge and Paul Westphal was an awesome coach. But now the Suns, they were just in the NBA championship, lost to Milwaukee Bucks. So it's been fun following them. They have an awesome young team. Yeah, in terms of college athletics, I am an ASU fan, but I wouldn't say that I follow them too much, but at times I will.
All right. One last question for you here. Is there a quote or saying that you like to live your life by?
Well, not a specific quote, but I will say this. I do work hard every day to be the best version of myself. And I try to go out of my way to help others as much as I can. That's a lot easier said than done. But what I will say to all of you, and I encourage all of you, to be kind to one another and to help others out in need as much as you can. You never know what somebody else is going through, so it goes a long way to be kind. And I encourage all of you to do that this year.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Stowers. We'll look forward to seeing you in the hallways.
All right, hey, go Spuds. Let's have a great year.